So we've left the hustle and bustle of the west side and we journeyed to the north side, very serene, very peaceful, very tranquil, to Silk Cotton Cottages in Englishman's Bay. This episode is definitely a must-see. I'm Davia Chambers and this is Let's Talk Tobago. Let's go!
In our stories this week, President of the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago, Her Excellency Christine Kangaloo, ORTT, visits Tobago. Tobago celebrates International Day of Peace, and we have highlights of the Republic Day celebrations in Roxborough. All these stories and more when Let's Talk Tobago continues. Stay with us.
The Division of Food Security, Natural Resources, the Environment and Sustainable Development presents World Food Day 2023 with a difference. On October 18th and 19th, 2023, the highly anticipated Grand Agricultural Exhibition will go on show at the Shaw Park Food Hub. Look out for the new additions to this year's calendar of events. The Farmers Green Market in Tobago East at the Roxborough Sporting Complex on October 5th. Our very first Lamb Fest on October 8th at the Shaw Park Food Hub. The Farmers Green Market Tobago West, October 10th at the Shaw Park Food Hub. And a separate and grand horticulture show on November 7 at the Shaw Park Food Hub. For more information, visit or call the division at 639-1966 extension 3535 or scan our Facebook and Instagram pages. World Food Day 2023. Water is life, water is food. Leave no one behind.
President of the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago, Her Excellency Christine Kangaloo, ORTT, made her first official visit to Tobago recently. We have all the highlights in this story. Have a look.
Her Excellency has officially arrived, yes, and she is now greeted by the presiding officer of the Tobago House of Assembly.
While you have had 6 outstanding predecessors, you, Your Excellency, have brought to the highest office in our country an instinctive, inherent feeling of care, concern, and empathy for young people and persons with disabilities. And you accentuated the urgent need to declare our steel pan the national instrument of Trinidad and Tobago.
The presiding officer, a short while ago, wished that you will be the first president to sign an assembly bill into law. It is my sincerest wish, so much so in that my prayers this morning, I pray that you will be the first president to proclaim new constitutional arrangements that will afford the people of Tobago the autonomy it long desired.
Let me assure you that the matter of autonomy for Tobago is one that I regard as absolutely critical to the proper development of our country. And today, on September the 27th, 2023, let me say to the people of Tobago, in Tobago, and in this most esteemed forum, that, like the Chief Secretary, I too think it's about time for us to revive matters concerning the autonomy of Tobago.
Imagine ripping up 100 calendars. Imagine, after spending all those years on Earth, you still have a sharp mind and a tongue. Well, in this story, you'll meet Miss Lorna Lashley, who recently celebrated her 100th birthday, and she'll tell us the secret to long life. Crystal George has more.
There aren't special vitamins or medicine that will guarantee a longer life. Simply put,
my Lord, I'm a very religious person, and it's my Lord.
Meet Centenarian Lorna Lashley, a very charismatic woman who is still very much full of life and vigor. And after celebrating 10 decades of memories, 12,000 months of happiness, 5,217 weeks of love, 36,525 days of wisdom, she is still eager for her long, fruitful life on this earth.
100 is strange. Because you start thinking back, from the time you were 5 and you started going to school and all the places you've been and where you've been and what you've done. 100 years of life is just like another day in your life. They make a lot of fuss about it, but it's another day in your life. I spend my day, turn on the TV, and I turn on to Trinity TV, and I see all the prayers coming up there. If it's any information around in our world that's important, I listen.
This initiative falls under the purview of the Division of Community Development, Youth Development and Sport, as they continue to honor the centenarian on the island. I'm Crystal George for Let's Talk Tobago.
There are 2 cottages here at Silk Cotton Cottages in Englishman's Bay, Yemaya and Oya. Now, there's no better place to introduce this next story. The International Day of Peace was celebrated on September 21st. It's a day devoted to strengthening the ideals of peace, and Omadara Mills will tell us how Tobago celebrated the day.
At the Community Mediation Center, our goal is to engender a culture of peace throughout the island. If we have to do that, then we have to start at home, school, church, play, and at the workplace. So this morning, since it's International Day of Peace, 21st of September, we decided that we are going to use the theme, which is Action for Peace, and we are going to create a peace mural by individuals putting their handprints together. And if you notice, some persons would have even done high fives and created a different color. And it just shows that we are different in every way, but we can still coexist. When it's on display, persons who would have participated would be reminded that this was my handprint. And some persons may even look, where did I sign again? And they would look to see where their handprints were, and they would be reminded that I committed to acting for peace. And if we could have that engraved in persons' mind and hearts, then we are on our way to a peaceful society.
When I heard of the initiative, I thought it was very important for us to recognize the day. It's a day that a lot of people are not aware of, so I thought that was very important. And as part of the Rotary Club of Tobago as well, that's something that we really advocate for, so I definitely wanted to participate. Peace, as I would say, is definitely something that we need. We need to have the tools in terms of with regards to mediation, because they play a pivotal part in community development, in resolving issues, in conflict management. I think a lot of people aren't aware of the facilities available to them. So I definitely think awareness was key. So it definitely did what it needed to do today.
We thought it pertinent that we make our presence felt and support the initiative, because what is happening globally with the Russian-Ukraine incident, I will put it that way. Further to that, I would like to say, even within our own communities, you see this phenomenon with gangs warring and etc. So if this is a first step towards trying to resolve that, I would say yes. I understand that the Community Mediation Center has proceeded to engage schools. So I think that's a good place to start with respect to our peace effort.
So the two other locations would be Speyside Secondary School and Signal Hill Secondary School. They would have used the dove, which symbolizes peace and freedom. Both schools have the dove displayed, and it would be they did some huge murals. What we are promoting is when you see this, you would remember what it means. Also, they're going to use it for an era where they can resolve conflicts and have healthy discussions.
Hello, it is my absolute pleasure to welcome you to Silk Cotton Cottages. It is my home, my haven, and my paradise, and I'm absolutely excited to share it with you. It is tucked away deep in the rainforest. It's a bird haven's paradise, and we would love for you to venture up here. We have an awesome outdoor space with a gorgeous pool, luxurious setting. You have your sunken fire pit, your jacuzzi, gazebo. You even have a hot tub that's floating. You can do your moonlight baths and anything your heart desire. We have our cottages, which are to the back, with our outdoor kitchen. You can grill, you can cook up a storm, or you can even have a private chef catered for you. Our cottages are luxurious. You can delve into our luxury linens. You can experience every plush and pleasure you desire. However, we're making you know you are in the rainforest, so you step out because we have your outside in and your inside out. You're going to step out and you're going to bathe in our outdoor bath. You're going to use all the facilities and you're going to be one with nature. We are going to make sure we have all your needs catered. In our glorious boutique here, you would get any toiletries you need or you forgot to pack, which I forgot in fact to mention that is provided with our rates here. You can get your swimwear, your beachwear, your accessories. You can get anything for your aesthetics. Besides the aesthetics we've provided for your soul, you are here to also indulge your soul. And that's our motto here at Flames. Flames cater for all your organic, healthy needs. We have artisan luxury handmade candles, pure, absolutely everything you need, crystal healing, energy healing, herbal healing, you have it here. We are catering for your personal empowerment, your spiritual development, your physical needs, and your holistic being. Welcome, and I hope you stay with us for a while.
So hospitality is on 100% at Silk Cotton Cottages in Englishman's Bay. Now, in this next story, you'll see that it's a beautiful gesture to always say thanks. The organizers of the Commonwealth Youth Games 2023 recently did just that at an appreciation ceremony for the Tobago volunteers. Ryan McCool has this story. Take a look.
All the volunteers, thank you from the bottom of our hearts for that we just showed the world what we can do and what we're capable of. And I want you to remember that. Don't forget that you can step up again, because there's going to be a beach games, there's going to be beach volleyball again, there's going to be something else happening, there's going to be netball, there's going to be something always happening.
Not only did the volunteers help in organizing and the management of the games, but also showing all these 71 countries the spirit of Trinidad and Tobago. And we are really, really thankful for what you have done.
To execute this project, we engaged professionals and the most professional team of volunteers ever. As the Task Force Chairman, Executive Chairman, King, and boss of all I survey, I have the right to give out my own awards.
Your service for the CYG is already recorded in your volunteer record card that you will receive tonight. I encourage you to complete your registration when it is publicly advertised by coming to the office where you will confirm your details and receive a unique volunteer number. This is a sure sign that we are serious about making this program a part of the legacy of the CYG 2023.
The Canaan Bonaccord Crown Point community recently hosted the Lunar Games. It was hosted to encourage camaraderie amongst residents. Ryan McCool was there and he has the scoop in this story. Enjoy!
We're here at the Canaan Bonaccord Recreational Ground and we just saw the teams dancing past. It's the first ever Lunar Games being put on by the Canaan Bonaccord Crown Point Community Council. It's for the long Republic Day weekend and we're just going to have a lot of fun and interview some of the organizers to find out more about this first ever community event dubbed the Lunar Games.
It's a team event which includes persons from within the community, or I should say groups from within the community. So we invited them to be a part of the games. We just wanted the games to be like a fun evening where all the people in the Canaan Bonaccord Crown Point space could come out, see each other faces that they haven't seen in a long while and just have some fun. What I'm hoping out of this is that we as a community will, first of all, support each other, because the village council needs support from the persons within the community.
Over a number of years, Canaan Bonaccord has been a very strong sporting community because we here at the grounds where Dwight York made his name. We have Asha James from this community as well. We have character medalists and so on here. So what we really trying to do is to bring back that level of sportingness. Bonaccord School was a dominant sporting school in its days, and we want to begin to get back that energy among our people, both old and young, because we have some old stars as well here. Currently we have a very active Facebook page, so it's the Canaan Bonaccord Crown Point Community Council. We are CBC_Community Council on Instagram. So those are our two main modes of contact now. And you see all the contact numbers there for the executive.
It was a hard race. We started off a little slow, but just to give people a little hope. And we just take it away. Just have to put our children in front to beat them. Yeah, so now we finish. We have about 3 races ahead and now finish. Stay tuned, real entertainment.
It's been a lot of fun here at the Lunar Games, here at the Canaan Bonaccord Recreational Ground, and the community definitely knows how to have fun. We were even included in one of the public events, a little eating race, a lot of novelty events. It's a really nice, wonderful time and way to beat the heat wave. The Lunar Games, evening, games, sports, fun. You can't go wrong. It's Tobago. So from Kevin Clark and myself, Ryan McCool, you've been watching Let's Talk Tobago.
And that's how we bring this week's edition of Let's Talk Tobago to a close. Thank you so much for joining us at Silk Cotton Cottages in Englishman's Bay. For more information, you can contact 780-2222. I'm Davia Chambers. On behalf of all of us at the Department of Information, you have a safe, enjoyable, and productive week. Take care until we see you again next week.
One thing we hoping and praying for see is bringing back the relationship between Watson and Farley. I feel it, and as sorry it hurts, as Christians who were brought up in the same religion, use the example of Jesus and tell each other your sins were forgiven. Beat your drum, Mr. Drummer.
I know test them tests me, and I could either make it or break it. You know what I mean? I could climb straight up the ladder, or I could slide right down the slide.
I feel enthusiasm kind of.
If I can.
a smile on your face when you're moving from place to place. Good morning, good morning, morning, good morning, morning.
Good morning, Tobago, and welcome to Youth Wednesdays on the Tobago Updates morning show. We're joining you here live from the Port Mall in Scarborough, Tobago. You know, it's Wednesday, it's the middle of the week, and we are here to give you that dose of youthful vigor. My name is Kaylee Lewis, and I am joined by
Dwayne Liz. Good morning and welcome to Youth Wednesdays. You know, as Kaylee rightfully said, today is the midweek, and you know, we bring this the youthful vibe on the morning show here at Tobago Updates Television. You know, welcome for all of those who are viewing us on the varying platforms, Amplayer, Facebook, YouTube, and all the others. Good morning to you guys. And I'm also joined with...
Good morning, everyone. Good morning, Dwayne. Good morning, Kaylee. It's nice to be here this morning. As Kaylee said, we're here to bring you the youthful vigor for this morning on Tobago Updates.
All right. So post the budget, presentation on Monday. You know, there has been a lot of brouhaha in the space, you know, surrounding the budget. There are a lot of contention. Some like it, some don't. What are your take on the, post-budget presentation on Monday?
Well, as I said, you know, persons have varying views. They have things that they like, things that they don't like. I think a couple of things stood out to me. One specifically, the standardized textbooks. I think that's something that we should have jumped on that bandwagon a long time ago. I think that's something that would be very interesting. In addition to that, I heard the chief sec talking about us doing e-books.
Yes.
I think that may be a little more sustainable as well, yeah.
Yes, but you know, a lot was alluded to that I wouldn't say when that comment was made. But you know, e-books is definitely, you know, trending in the right direction. What about you, Miss Nancis? What do you think about the budget?
Well, what I and the social space have been focused on is the increase in minimum wage. I think that causes a major shift in the economy. It caused a major shift in a lot of salaries present right now amongst the young people. A lot of them are excited, but I think we also need to focus on the whole idea of the shift in the economy on a whole. So that's for me.
All right. You know, and Carnival is right there. Kaylee, you smiled. You know, I wouldn't ask your business, but you know.
We didn't know I'm not going anywhere.
I don't know.
You know that.
I don't know that. You know. But that's enough banter for this morning. We'll get into that discussion probably later on as time progresses. But we're going to go over to Miss Nancis for news in 90 seconds.
Ding.
All right, a little bit of technical difficulty there, you know, but we're back. But I guess we should probably talk about the carnival. You know, somebody called me from the States yesterday actually and said that they're excited about coming to Tobago for carnival. However, the impediment is Caribbean Airlines and the lift from Trinidad to Tobago. And you know, we were talking about possible alternatives, probably looking at Virgin, probably looking at JetBlue, but those flights don't often land directly into Tobago, and flights from those areas usually come on specific days in the week, usually one time in the week. So perhaps, I don't know what could happen. Probably we need another boat or something.
Something specifically for that season. Correct.
Yeah, but I think that Caribbean Airlines ought to look at the viability of, you know, also servicing the economy, which has been a clarion call for the past week. What are your thoughts?
Most definitely. I mean, we're always facing some kind of difficulties when it comes to the air bridge regarding Caribbean Airlines. As you said, I mean, it's been a problem for quite some time, and I definitely think it's something that we need to work on.
Yes. And I didn't hear it coming out from the budget per se, but I think I heard though
that we're supposed to get some new ATRs.
We're supposed to get some new ATRs,
yeah,
but what does that mean for Tobago? I mean, the truth is, haven't Caribbean Airlines not been getting new ATRs, new jets, new Boeings for the past 10 years? If so, then what has become? How has that benefited the Tobago bridge?
I know last year for Carnival this year, actually in February, I believe they put on some new flights. They added extra flights into the schedule. So maybe that's something that we can consider for the upcoming October Tobago Carnival.
Yes.
But then again, I mean, can the planes withstand the pressure? That is the question.
Certainly more discussion on that. But we're going to go back to Miss Nancy's for news in 90 seconds.
Thank you, Dwayne. Thank you, Kaylee. We do apologize for the technical difficulties. Here is your news in 90 seconds for Wednesday, October 4th, 2023. The Innovative Democratic Alliance criticizes the 2024 Tobago budget, deeming the $260 million capital allocation insufficient and inadequate. The IDA sees the Building Capacity for Diversification and Growth budget as symbolic and not genuinely serving Tobago's interests. Dr. Denise Sawyer-Fat Angus, IDA leader, urges collaborative governance for national development. Tobago's 2024 allocation is $2.585 billion, with $2.298 billion for recurrent expenses and $260 million for development. The IDA argues that the budget fails to recognize Tobago as an equal partner in national development, reinforcing the perception of Tobago as an economic burden on Trinidad. The Tobago Hotel and Tourism Association partnered with Caribbean Natural Resources Institute and secured funding for a one-year project to boost online presence and promote sustainable tourism. However, supported by the Global Blue Tourism Initiative and co-funded by French Facility for Global Environment, this project benefits around 8,000 people, including members and local stakeholders. With the pandemic significantly affected small tourism businesses, this results in setbacks and revenue losses due to lockdowns and travel restrictions. Immediate past president of the Tobago Hotel and Tourism Association and project manager Christopher James stressed commitment to inclusive and interconnected tourism development in Tobago, encompassing all sectors and suppliers. Chief Secretary Farley Augustine criticizes the government's budget allocation, despite a $64 million increase. He anticipated ongoing funding challenges for Tobago in the upcoming year, with the budget allocation now at $2.585 billion, up from $2.521 billion in the previous year. This amount falls short of the recommended range set by the Dispute Resolution Commission and agreed upon by Parliament in 2001. Additionally, Augustine also expressed concerns about the lack of transparency in the allocation of funds to Tobago through central government ministries and agencies. And this concludes your news in 90 seconds.
Thank you, Natalia and Nancy. And in no uncertain terms, we're going to do the birthdays for today. And today's birthdays are not sponsored by anyone. Right? Today's birthdays is not sponsored by
just to wish you all happy birthday greetings.
Yes.
So we're going to start with our first birthday for this morning. And our first birthday this morning is Jody Melville Nimblett. Happy birthday going out to you, Jody. From the Tobago Updates family, we pray that God continues to bless you.
Right, and finally, our birthday greetings goes out to Miss Natoya Johnson Chapman. Happy birthday goes out to you from the Tobago Updates family.
Okay, so we have to give them the rundown for this morning. So first on our list, we have Petal Danielle Benoit. She's the Minority Counsel, and she's going to be coming and chatting with us a little bit about the budget. Next, we have Dr. Shane Mohammed. He is a political scientist, and this interview is going to be done by Natalia and Dwayne, and he's also going to be doing a little bit of budget talks. Our last interview is with Miss Kimmy Potts, and she's not going to be talking about the budget. She's going to be bringing a little, lighter vibe to the show this morning. She's going to talk about Tobago Soca Titan preliminaries. So viewers, that is what we have in store for you this morning. Remember to stay tuned. We're going to head over to Tobago in Focus.
Good health starts with good nutrition. The Division of Education, Research and Technology understands this, knowing that the future of Tobago lies with the nutrition of our children. The school nutrition policy is being developed for this purpose.
We must understand that the child is a whole being. What the child consumes matters. We do have a lot of wastage with particular meals as well, so we want to bring everything in a streamlined and organized manner so that we are most cost effective in our school nutrition program.
The policy, which is being examined and developed by a multi-departmental team from the division, as well as food and nutrition stakeholders, will seek to reduce waste, provide cost-effective measures, as well as establishing quality standards for meals and the stakeholders who create them.
We're also going to be reviewing the cost, the pricing, criteria for children to access the meals, because that has sort of gotten out of control a little bit over the years, moved away from the original objectives, and also the criteria for selecting and for maintaining your services as a caterer, because you have to maintain a standard.
The committee has been given a 4-month deadline for the full rollout of this policy. Technical advisor at the Division of Education, Research and Technology, Natasha Second, said work is well underway and encouraged principals, teachers and parents to participate in the process when the need arises.
We want to have policies that are very clear, policies that are very pragmatic. They're not going to simply be academic documents that are stuck in a cupboard. We want persons who work throughout the system to be able to move towards an improvingly higher quality education product, because we can measure exactly where we're going. So we want it to be transparent, and we want to have high levels of accountability throughout our entire system.
Tobago Carnival Caribbean Vibes presents Tequila Sunset. Tequila Sunset, October 27th. Scarborough Esplanade from 3 p.m. to 11 p.m. It's a cooler fete like no other. Bring your squad and we'll take care of the vibe with your top TNT and New York DJs, surprise guest artists. Tequila Sunset will be an epic event you will never forget. Early bird tickets are $199 TT for $30 US. Get your tickets online on islandetickets.com or frontlineticketing.com. For more info, call 475-6218 or 754-7344 and New York 917-561-9742. All drinks must be in plastic bottles and no ice or chaser allowed. Tequila Sunset, October 27th, Scarborough Esplanade.
Put a smile on your face when you're moving from place to place. Good morning, good morning, morning, good morning.
Good morning, viewers, and welcome back to Youth Wednesdays on the Tobago Updates morning show. Monday, we had the reading of the budget. Today is Wednesday, Youth Wednesdays, and we're here to give the young people that little insight about what would have taken place on Monday. 2.521 billion in fiscal 2023 was the allocation for the Tobago House of Assembly. This morning we have with us Minority Councillor Petal Daniel Benoit, and she's going to be chatting with us a little bit about the budget. Good morning,
Good
Mrs.
morning,
Daniel Benoit.
Kaylee. Good morning, Tobago, Trinidad and Tobago, wherever you are viewing and listening. Good morning.
Okay, wonderful. So give us your immediate thoughts on the budget reading as the Minority Councillor in the THA.
So, immediate thoughts. First, I would like to commend the Minister of Finance and also the government in the management of the economy. And the Minister of Finance would have gone through in great detail in terms of the statistics, the economic outlook. And he would have indicated that the domestic economy grew by 1.5% in 2022, and the growth continued in Q1 of 2023 at a rate of 3%. And there's also a projection of growth for 2023 of 2.4%, and this is expected to continue into 2024 and 2025. We also saw where there was a decline in the unemployment rate. And I think in terms of management of the economy, coming out of COVID, I think it is commendable based on where we are. And you would have seen the international rating agencies such as Standard & Poor's and Moody's also having that confidence in the economy, upgrading from negative to stable. That is in the case of Standard & Poor's, and in the case of Moody's, from stable to positive. So I think in terms of steering the national ship, I would want to commend the government in their efforts. And of course, we would have had some goodies coming out of the budget in terms of the social safety net. We see where emphasis was placed on that. Emphasis was placed on agriculture, crime and security, education, and of course the youth. And we saw where the minimum wage would have increased from 17.5% to $20.50. We would have also seen where we would be getting back pay for those public servants who would have accepted the 4% wage negotiation. Back pay is expected in December of this year. So there were some good things coming out of the budget presentation on Monday.
Yes, I think definitely that back pay part of it was something that stood out to a lot of persons,
Yes.
especially, it's coming around Christmas time. That's something that persons are definitely excited for. But in terms of Tobago specifically,
Yes.
developmental capital, a $260 million reduction from the last budget. Do you see this being a challenge? How do you see this posing a possible challenge for the Tobago House of Assembly?
So the development program estimates for 2024 is 260. It was 300, so it's a reduction of 40. However, when you take it in context in terms of totality, the total allocation to Tobago would have increased by 64.2%. And we are seeing that under this current administration last year, and I want us to take it in context, because if we take from 2017 to 2024, this administration would have received the largest allocation in the last 6 to 7 years. So in 2017, the Tobago allocation was $2.3 billion. In 2018, it was 2.203. In 2019, it was 2.236. 2020, 2.290. 2021, 2.14. 2022, 2.33. 2023, which is the full term of this current administration, it was 2.521, a record increase of 285, because coming in the midterm review, there was an additional allocation of $100 million, particularly on the DP side. And this estimate of 2024, it is 2.585. So, yes, I agree that the development program side has reduced. However, overall, the allocation to Tobago has increased by $64 million. And I think it provides an opportunity for this administration to do some prudent management of the resources. Because in the past, we would have seen that past administration, particularly the PNM administration, would have managed with significantly less. And we have seen, and even the current chief secretary would have boasted the number of health centers per capita, the number of community centers per capita, and the number of police stations, and the list go on. So we have seen development over the years with a reduced allocation. And there are opportunities for alternative financing, there are opportunities for collaborating, there are opportunities for restricting and transferring. And we just need to be innovative, we need to think out of the box. And I believe that based on the historic trend, we can manage.
Okay, so we're talking about managing the smaller amounts by the previous administration,
Yes.
and what this administration is able to do with what they have, which is significantly larger than what they would have had in previous times. Now, we also spoke about police stations and that kind of thing. if I am not mistaken, you can
Yes.
correct me if I'm wrong, these kind of things fall under the 6th schedule, correct?
Yes, they do.
So let's give us your thoughts on that, because I know that the Minister of Finance would have mentioned something about that, and the Chief Secretary would have debated it, saying that the money spent on Tobago via the 6th schedule cannot be measured. Let's hear your thoughts on that.
So the Minister of Finance would have indicated that an additional 678.5 million will be spent in Tobago for major projects, and he would have identified some of the major projects, including the Dwight York Stadium, 4 million, the Tobago Airport expansion, 400, Roxborough Fire Station, 1.9, the silting of the Hillsborough Dam, and the list goes on. And that, in terms of the expenditure of the central government, it can be measured. Because if you look at the estimates, and I took the opportunity to actually go back into the estimates, those big yellow books for development program, if you go to the line items, you will see the estimates and the actual expenditure. And I took the time to pull out 2 of those line items. The minister would have spoken about the desilting of the Hillsborough Dam. And if you go to the development program estimates on the public utilities, you will see a line item there, desilting and rehabilitation of the Hillsborough Dam. The actual expenditure based on the estimates in 2021 was 8.13 million. The actual expenditure for 2022 was 9 million. The revised estimate for 2023 was 15 million, increased from 10 million. And in 2024, the estimate is 7.5. So you can measure that. If you look, I looked at another ministry, Ministry of Finance, and the minister would have spoken about the estimates for the construction of the airport terminal, airport, which is A&R Robinson expansion. And that is a major investment in terms of the schedule. And again, I went to the DP estimates, and under the Ministry of Finance, we saw air transportation, construction, and this is the line item, construction of a terminal and associate facilities at the A&R Robinson International Airport. The actual expenditure for 2021 based on the estimate book was 63.827 million. For 2022, the actual expenditure was 48.13 million. And the revised estimate for 2023 was 110 million. And for 2024, the estimate is 400 million. So you can quantify the spend under the 6th schedule if you review the estimates, and the thing about it is the actual expenditure. If you want to query the actual expenditure is actually audited by the Auditor General's Department, who also audits the Tobago House of Assembly. So you can quantify and you can see what is the actual spend in terms of the 6th schedule. And I think we could do it for all of the line items and all of the expenditure under the 6th schedule that the minister would have spoken about. So there is room for that, as well as there is room for further collaboration between the Tobago House of Assembly and central government for items under the ministries of the central government. We have the Ministry of Youth and national security, and we are seeing a number of programs in relation to youth, and I am sure the Ministry of Youth is willing to collaborate on some of those programs with the Tobago House of Assembly.
Okay, Councillor, what's a response to that debated question? I mean, you brought the facts, the statistics and everything to prove what you are saying. Now, I want to piggyback on the response that you would have given before in terms of the differences in the allocation. As a Tobagonian, not a politician, as a Tobagonian, let's measure the development of Tobago within the last 2 years in comparison to, well, obviously the previous administration would have had a much longer time in office, but let's measure that development between those 2 years with seeing that the current administration would have had the larger bulk of what was given before in the Tobago budget?
So as a Tobagonian, I am quite disappointed. And again, let me go to the statistics, because if you look at what is happening in Tobago, you are seeing persons are complaining, you are feeling, and a colleague said it last night, the trauma of what Tobagonians are going through. Based on the statistics, although the Tobago House of Assembly would have received a larger allocation, we have seen a decline in the economy. And this is after coming out of COVID, where we saw an increase or an uptick in the growth of the Tobago economy. We saw where under this administration, the first year of this administration, we saw a decline of 2% in the Tobago economy. And if you look at major sectors in the Tobago economy, you look at the construction sector, you saw a decline of 34%. If you look at the agriculture sector, you saw a decline, I think it was, of 7%. And if you go through the sectors, you have seen, or it has recorded, a decline. And this is major based on the policies of this administration. And I want to go back to construction. We are seeing on the island where Tobago-based contractors, indigenous contractors to our island, have complained about not receiving jobs, and they have complained about not receiving payments. And that is as a direct result of the policy. So if the construction sector is not engaged, then it has a ripple effect, because the construction sector, when they are engaged, employ individuals, employed Tobagonians. Those persons who are employed can spend money in the groceries, the supermarkets, the corner shops. And when that is not the case, contractors have to dismiss their employees because they are unable to pay. Contractors are not able to keep their financial obligations with the banks and other financial institutions. And you are seeing the ripple effect based on the data. So I think coming into office with this large landslide victory, the national and even the Tobago population had great expectations, but unfortunately, based on the management and their stewardship so far, I think most persons are left disappointed. And it is not my words, but the facts speak for themselves.
Okay, Councillor. And the DRC would have recommended between 4.03% and 6.8% for the allocation for the THA. We would have received 4.36%, not even the middle of the percentages that were recommended. Are you satisfied with this allocation?
So as a Tobagonian, of course we will always want more. But again, you have to take it in context. So there are finite financial resources, and over the years, Tobago has been asking for between $4 or $5 billion. We more than often we get on the lower end, half of what was requested, more or less. But if you take it into the national context, everybody is seeking piece of this national pie. And of course, the minister, the cabinet, the government has to look at the priorities nationally, and based on the requests of each entity in terms of ministry, Tobago House of Assembly, other state agencies, they have to prudently divide this national finite resources among everybody. So I agree that we could have additional allocation, we can have more, but I also want us to consider there is a autonomy bill before the parliament which was not approved, and this current THA administration would have vehemently gone against what was presented in the parliament. And in the parliament before us currently, we have a minimum of 6.9%. And that was the minimum starting point. And we are not saying that with the autonomy bill that everything that we want is currently what is in the bill. But I think it's a starting point. We would have moved from the 1980 bill to the 1996. And I think incrementally, we can get what we want to be. And it's a step for me in the right direction. So it is also, the Chief Secretary spoke about improving relationships and improving collaborations and strengthening the public financial resources as well as autonomy. I think this is a step in the right direction if we consider what is currently before the Parliament. So as a Tobagonian, yes, I feel we could get more, but if we look at it in the national context, I am satisfied based on the historic trend what we have currently received, the increase of $64 million.
Okay, and before we wrap up the interview, I must mention this. Very recently, Tobagonians have been plagued with the issues regarding the sea bridge.
Yes.
After the reading of the budget on Monday, would you say that any strides have been made in that direction to alleviate those kinds of problems so that Tobagonians don't have to go through something like that again?
Okay, so significant strides were made in terms of the sea bridge in particular. And we would have seen, I think sometime in 2028, Tobagonians would have gone through some hardship and inconvenience in terms of traveling on the sea bridge. The government would have put its money where its mouth was, and it purchased 2 new fast ferries. And we have seen that reduce and alleviate
in terms of the cargo
some of the
vessels
stresses.
specifically.
So a cargo vessel was also leased, and we saw where an incident occurred, and this was not catered for, and the cargo vessel had to be taken out of the route. We have seen where the Minister of Finance would have made a commitment, and he would have recommitted when he would have had the meeting with the Tobago Chamber about purchasing a new cargo vessel. And I am sure, although the minister may not have spoken to it in his budget statement, I am of the belief that the Minister of Works may address it. So let us look on and listen to the Minister of Works in terms of his presentation in the debate to see whether or not he would address the issues relative to the sea bridge in particular. We have seen where over time, yes, we have not returned to the pre-COVID number of flights the airline, but we have seen an incremental increase in the number of flights on the domestic airline. And I think over time, we would return to the place where we want to be. But also, in the House on Thursday, we would have discussed and debated the motion in terms of a transportation company for Tobago. And the minority would have gone through the data in terms of the capacity of the air and the sea bridge and the number of passengers. And in a lot of instances, both on the air and sea bridge, we have seen where the capacity and the persons traveling, the capacity would have outweighed the number of passengers. And maybe we need to really consider what the real issues are, particularly in terms of the sea bridge. Maybe it is in terms of the booking system and how we go about that booking. So I feel like we need to do some more analysis in terms of what the real issues are so we can come up with the relevant solutions to remedy the issues.
Okay, Councillor, we're strapped for time. I really hope that you can come back sometime soon so that we can finish this conversation. But we want to thank you so much for coming on this morning and chatting with us. Viewers, we're going to head into some more budget talks very soon with Dr. Shane Mohammed, and that interview is going to be done by Dwayne Nurse and Natalia Nancis. So please remember to share the live, share the live, share the live. We'll be right back.
Put a smile on your face when you're moving from place to place. Good morning, good morning,
Tobago now has its very own carnival.
She like loud music and
Platinum touch.
Yeah.
Rotisserie, mouth-watering fries, salads, combos, and specials galore. Feeling for something to eat? Come and see. Our rotisserie is seasoned to the T. Kicking chicken, masala, and jerk roast. Crispy fries made from scratch. Who do you know can beat that? Or salads freshly cut and packed. When you taste it, you'll be wanting to come back. So come check us out on number 2 Robinson Street, Uptown Scarborough, Tobago. We open on Saturday nights from 7:30 to 11:30 p.m. Monday to Thursday, we're open from 10 a.m. to 9:30 p.m. and on Friday, 10 a.m. to 4:30 p.m. Contact us at 772-7443 and all social media handles at The Rotisserie Factory.
Put a smile on your face when you're moving from place to place. Good morning, good morning, morning, good morning, morning.
Good morning and welcome back to Youth Wednesdays and Tobago Updates morning show. You're viewing us here live in Portmore, Scarborough, Tobago. This morning we want to continue the budgetary conversations coming out from Monday. And this morning we're going to have virtually 2 specially invited guests. First we have Dr. Shane Mohammed. Okay. So we're going to be having Dr. Shane Mohammed and a political analyst, a political scientist, sorry, and also joining him virtually would be Mr. Anselm Richard, the Chief Technical Advisor in the Division of Finance, Trade and the Economy. And, you know, the budget is quite important, not only because it was just read on Monday, but, you know, it spells the not just the policy direction, but the fiscal direction of the country, you know, as time progresses. And I'm not doing this interview alone. I'll be also doing it with Miss Nancis.
Hi, good morning, everyone. Good morning to Dr. Shane Mohammed. Good morning to you again, Dwayne. Good morning to our viewers.
Dr. Mohammed, good morning and welcome virtually to Tobago.
Good morning, how are you all?
I am not hearing Dr. Mohammed.
We seem to be having some technical difficulties.
All right.
Good morning, are you hearing me?
Yes, we are. Yes, we are. Welcome, welcome. And while we await Mr. Richard, we want to ask you, Dr. Mohammed, well, what are your take on Monday's budgetary presentation?
It is a budget which lacks innovation and innovative thinking, transformational positioning in light of the declining energy resources and revenues that we possess in Trinidad and Tobago.
Right. And for the layman term, what does that mean for the average person? And that has been a question asked since the budget in various interviews. What does that mean for the average person? Innovation, declining oil and gas revenues, etc.
So what it means is for the layman is that they were not taken into consideration with regard to the standard of living and improving their lives and livelihoods from a trickle-down effect. It means, therefore, that the government has admitted, and there's no way to deny it, that the government, through the Minister of Finance, has accepted and has admitted that we have limited resources as it pertains to oil and gas. We have limited revenues as a result of oil and gas, and that is not trickling down through government policy and by this budget to those persons who are at the bottom of the scale, and is not trickling down into their pockets, and it is not improving their purchasing power. It is not improving their value for money in terms of when they go to the groceries and to the supermarkets, and it is not improving their ability to effectively run their households.
So continuing on the major highlights, Dwayne just mentioned the oil and gas. we have another major highlight that youths alike, the adults in our country, they've been continuously talking about it on their social media platforms, and that is the increased minimum wage. So I'll start with that question. What are your thoughts on the impact that this increase would have on the working citizen and by extension the families?
Well, I think it's something we have to seriously take about, that people are just looking at the minimum wage from the perspective of, well, we got an increase of $3, and when you multiply that, you get anywhere between an increase of $500 and $600 a month. However, when you take into consideration, one, where is a framework for monitoring and evaluation as it pertains to ensuring that businesses do receive the minimum wage? That's one. Two, how does the government intend to treat with the monitoring and evaluation process to ensure that persons, and let me be more specific, that Trinbagonian citizens are not laid off in favor of cheaper labor resources through the Venezuelan migrants? That's a very real question that needs to be answered. How does the government intend to protect worker rights in that regard to ensure that persons have and do receive the minimum wage that they have positioned and posited for to be effective from the 1st of January 2024? And then that also trickles down to how does that affect consumers' value capture and value for money in terms of what assurances does the government put in place, or what systems and policies or mechanisms has the government put in place to protect consumers from price gouging and from ensuring that price regulation of goods and services remain at a satisfactory and acceptable level? The answer to that question is they have none.
In continuing the conversation in the direction you took it, the minimum wage, a meager increase, some would argue, of $3. And you mentioned in your earlier contribution, innovation, the budget lacked innovation. What mechanisms per se, in addition to what you would have mentioned a while ago, do you see the government should take, as opposed to just increasing the minimum wage? That is one question. And what about pegging the increase to any wage for workers in the country against namely inflation, global inflation, because that would tell us, that how much money at the end of the day the average person is going home with, because we know that once we got wind that an increase in the country, whether it be in gas or salaries, food prices may go up, and I didn't see anything in the budget to protect against food prices. So what would you say? What are some of the innovative measures you think the government should have taken in that regard?
Well, I always believe that this is a country of three things. We are a country of laws, we are a country of policies, and we are a country of regulations. And if those things are not put in place and those things are not enforced, then it does not exist in the minds of those who have the power to make certain decisions. And that is why I said to you that while people are jumping up and saying, yes, we've gotten an increase in minimum wage, and the opposition leader says that it should have been higher, in order to protect that minimum wage and to protect the persons who are entitled to that minimum wage, there should be a framework for policies that are in place to ensure that there's a monitoring and evaluation system to ensure that employers do dispense that minimum wage to their employees. But there's also a discussion on the ground where employers are saying, well, we could find a way to circumvent this minimum wage by employing less Trinbagonians and employing more foreigners, which are the Venezuelan workforce and the Venezuelan migrants, because they will accept a lower wage system and work just as harder. what I'm saying is that there's no system in place to protect the Trinbagonian employees from that disadvantage, and there's no monitoring and evaluation process put in place and a framework in place to ensure that employers do adhere to the policy of minimum wage to Trinbagonian citizens first and foremost, and that is a protection of worker rights. Now, somebody going to come and tell me, well, they have the reprieve of industrial relations through the Industrial Relations Court, and they have reprieve through unions and all that. No, we need to make sure that there's some system in place to protect worker rights as it pertains to minimum wage, to ensure that they're getting minimum wage and that they're getting and that their NIS is getting paid. That's one. Two, the other issue is there's no system in place to protect consumers in light of the rise in minimum wage from prices of commodities, be it goods, services, be it food at fast food outlets and that sort of thing, going up, to protect them from that automatic, once we have to pay more, it means that once we have to pay increased wages, it means that the cost of food has to go up as well. There's no framework in place to protect persons from price gouging and from exorbitant prices. There's an entity, but the entity is not empowered effectively to ensure that price regulation and price regulatory measures are put in place effectively to protect consumers.
The point I was trying to raise earlier in my question, because yes, on one hand you increase the wage, the minimum wage, and as you rightfully said, how does it translate? How are you ensuring there are mechanisms in place, policies in place? And the fear is that prices are going to go up because the average business owner or the people in the private sector will increase their prices to match the expenses output to accommodate this new minimum wage even. So I am not certain if the minister in hindsight would have put any mechanism in place, but certainly didn't come out in the budget.
Well, I heard him mention that there should be protective measures in place. We have the union that advocates for us at times, right? So earlier on, before the budget was read, it was mentioned that the minimum wage should actually be increased to $30 instead of the $20.50 that was presented in the budget yesterday. So I'm asking you, do you think it's a fair compromise that they increase it to $20.50 and not the $30 that was asked for? Because it was also mentioned that $30 is what is needed by a citizen in Trinidad and Tobago to actually live. So I'm asking you, is it a fair compromise that it was raised to $20.50 instead of the suggested $30 by the trade union?
Fair compromise at this stage of the game, if it is that we are not making the right revenues and we're not generating revenues in different sectors, and we're not diversifying the economy to ensure that we maintain revenue generating or a sustainable economy. That's the first thing. And we can say that, and it is very easy for persons to talk about, and I'm all for raising the minimum wage to $50 an hour. That is something that there shouldn't be an issue in Trinidad and Tobago with regard to providing. However, as I will state again, you could raise it from $20, from $17.50 to $20.50 to $30.50 to $40.50 to $60.50 to $70.50 to $100 an hour. But if you don't have the frameworks and mechanisms to monitor and to evaluate entities, businesses, to ensure that they are paying what they are supposed to pay to workers, then you have one problem. If that framework is not in place, and you have persons and businesses that are going to find alternative means of employment and employees so existing in Trinidad and Tobago, there is an alternative workforce where cheaper labor is possible, and people are going to actively go in that direction, right? There's nothing in place to protect Trinbagonian workers from getting laid off, to ensure that they don't simply say, well, we're going to do a cost-cutting exercise. And part of that cost-cutting exercise is that we're going to be downsizing our labor force. When in truth and in fact, they're not downsizing their labor force, but they are more or less shifting the labor force from Trinbagonians to Venezuelans. That's something that I have actively heard from business persons that are saying, well, we have this as an option. Now, the other thing is, you don't have anything to protect the wages except for reprieving the industrial court. And that we all know that the judicial system is a long drawn out process. So I think one of the things that we should be looking at is ways in which to protect minimum wage workers in a very simple manner, one that is not a long drawn out bureaucratic process, and where they can get reprieve at the earliest possible, in the earliest possible way. Because at the end of the day, people who earn minimum wage are those who need the money. One, they need the money for either furthering their education. They're doing the job to either make money to further their education. They're making money to support their households, to manage their households, to send their children to school, to make ends meet, to put food on the table. They're making money, they are minimum wage earners because that's the only opportunity to earn money in some instances, right? So they're the most vulnerable in the society,
Certainly.
right?
Certainly.
So therefore, whether you raise the wage from 20 to 50 to 100 to 120, the point remains that there are no frameworks in place to protect the worker nor to protect the consumer. And I don't think that those who have been advocating for the increase in minimum wage took into consideration what I would call they didn't take into consideration the fine print of this whole thing.
And so finally, quickly, we are out of time. Tobago, the budgetary allocation for Tobago. We see, yes, they increased it for the expenditure, recurrent expenditure, but we saw $40 million decrease from last year. And I looked at the trends from 2015 till 2020, and the highest points of allocation were 2015 and 2016 respectively. But after that, there was a significant downward trend. Do you think that looking at the allocations for the recurrent the development expenditure is an indication from the government that they are not prioritizing Tobago's development?
Prioritizing Tobago's development, that's another statement. I listened to the minority councillor, and she's very much talking about prudent management. And I want to talk about what about prudent mismanagement. And she talked about this new administration has a golden opportunity to ensure that they make little, do a lot with a little. Now that's not impossible. That we have had two prime ministers in this country that have said that one of their ways of getting things done in terms of growth and development in Trinidad and Tobago is by doing a lot with little. And that is not impossible. It takes a lot of innovative thinking in order for this to happen. However, with that said, one thing that you have to think about is that the sixth schedule allows the government to do what it wants. The sixth schedule provides the government with the opportunity to invest $678.5 million into projects for Tobago, which they themselves will directly take credit for. And with regard to your reference to 2015-2016, what was happening in 2015-2016? They had just come out of an election, and therefore they had to prove themselves to the people that they had interest of Tobago at heart. So that's the sixth schedule is actually the political struggle between the central government and the THA, and the wrestle for the two Tobago seats, which are critical to forming government. But furthermore, the government is on an onward trajectory, directly battling for control of the THA by any means in the run up to 2025, 2026. So, that is why the Minority Council will say that the sixth schedule provides for all of these different projects at the $678 million. However, what she fails to understand is that also, which I took note, is that she talked about in works and infrastructure and contractors not getting jobs and losing opportunity, and she used a very critical word. Indigenous contractors are losing opportunity. But the Secretary for Infrastructure,
Mr. Mohammed, I really wish this.
Hold on, give me a second. Hold on. Give me 1 second on this one. I want to make a point here about the new administration. The new administration is entitled and has the prerogative to review prudent spending of the former administration, where possible to recover funds and to redirect its monies, and that is the prerogative of this administration. But what I think is very blatant is that the 4.36, and given that recurrent expenditure takes up the majority of that money, it is a chokehold on Tobago's development and the part of the vision of the THA.
All right. So we definitely see the need to have Mr. Mohammed come back again to continue this review of the budget that we had reviewed yesterday. All right. So thank you, Dr. Mohammed, for being with us this morning. Thank you, viewers, for joining. For those of you joining, this is Dr. Shane Mohammed giving us the highlights on the budget that was reviewed by Finance Minister Colin Inbert. So before we go, we want to just encourage you to share the live, and stay tuned for GMT. Good Morning Tobago, right after our last interview that will be done by Kaylee, telling us a little bit about our Soca Titans. Thank you.
Mount Pleasant Credit Union Back to School Loan Promotion. Loans up to $15,000. Requirements: job letter and a payslip no more than 1 month old. Utility bill, copy of book list, salary deduction, 10% down payment. For self-employed persons, evidence of income and expenditure. Bank statement, 12 to 18 months. Other supporting document. Promotion ends October 18. Contact us at 639-8375 or 8108, or check us out on www.mpcutobago.com or email us at loan@mpcutobago.com. Mount Pleasant Credit Union's Back to School Loan Promotion.
Put a smile on your face when you're moving from place to place. Good morning, good morning, morning, good morning, morning.
And yes, welcome back. Yes, we're going to take it down at 25 and segue over to discussion surrounding Tobago Carnival October 2023. And this morning we have the Technical Production Officer from the
Tobago
Festivals Commissions Limited, Papayo, Miss Kimmy Potts, to have this discussion. And the theme is Tobago Titan Preliminaries. Good morning.
Good morning, Dwayne.
How are you?
I'm good, and thanks for having me.
It's a pleasure.
So I'm going to jump straight into it. This year, we at the Tobago Festivals Commission Limited is hosting Soca Monarch, but we've renamed it to the Tobago Soca Titan. We really want to foster that kind of energy, that Titan spirit that Tobagonians have. And what we realize is that a lot of our soca artists, after they compete in these competitions, is then what? So ideally what we would have wanted is to have a road to the finals where artists would have gone through some training on professional development, you know, all those kind of nice things. But we won't be able to do that for this October. However, we will start that journey in February of 2024 that will take us all the way back to October of 2024. But for this year, we're going to have an audition tomorrow. It's live. It will be live on Tobago Updates. Whoop, whoop. And we know we have over 22 registered persons thus far from Tobago. So that means people are really, really interested in, you know, getting into the soca industry. And we intend to start 7:30 sharp. Yes, right. 7:30 sharp. So we expect persons to, you know, persons are also invited to come to the Shaw Park Cultural Complex tomorrow for 7:30. It's free. Again, it's live, and we intend to see a wide variety of Tobagonian soca artists on display.
And that's great. You know, last year was the first stint of Tobago's Carnival. You know, and do you think that, you know, this is a step in the right direction? And I'll tell you why I asked this question. Yesterday, somebody called me from the States indicating that they are so excited to come to Tobago for Carnival.
That's nice.
Right? Is it that the Tobago Festival Commission, and by extension the division, is working feverishly to ensure that Tobago's Carnival is second to none?
Of course. That will always be the aim. That will always be the aim. I think you really can't see the true essence of a festival until 5 years later. But thus far, I know from my knowledge, we've been working very hard at the commissions to make sure that all our services and all our productions are done at industry level standards.
So what to expect tomorrow? What would the Tobago Soca Titan preliminaries entail?
Okay, so the vibe we're going for is something of The Voice or X Factor, or even like something like Making the Band kind of vibes. But for the preliminary specifically, is really like that whole X Factor, live comments, lights, song. You know, is our overall kind of mood we're setting, yeah?
Right. And is it anything else that might surprise? Any surprises?
No, not really. But however, what I do want to say though is that next week Friday we have the the Calypso Monarch Juniors, where we have 11 contestants this year. So that's more than half of what we had last year, competing for this title. And you know, when we did the auditions, we were blown away. And we were so happy with the finalists. So, you know, it's next week Friday is going to also be good. It's Shaw Park, right. Free again to students. We have a guest artist and all of that good jazz.
So I don't know nothing about carnivals.
Right.
So you have to educate people like me this morning.
No problem.
So categories, you know, you want to... Are there
we make categories.
You know, categories? You
No,
know,
soca is soca. We really want to just focus on getting people involved and enthused about the art form, which is soca. Right? And, you know, we want to really create that Titan spirit, like so people can allow themselves to get into it, market their songs, push their songs. Because what we noticed last day after Culture B1, then what? You know? So we really want to make sure and create a platform with the Soca Titans journey that allows the artists to be seen, to be heard, to present themselves in a kind of way that is second to none, and that of a Titan spirit that we in Tobago have.
Right. And you know, what are any prizes? What are the prizes look like, if any at all?
There will be cash prizes. I would let that come out in subsequent announcement, but there's a cash prize for sure. Right.
So you think I could enter and
win? Of course.
I could sing or no?
I'm pretty sure you can.
I could sing.
You perform though?
If I could perform?
Performance is a thing.
Oh. I may have to take a rain check on that.
No problem.
But, you know,
well, you have until February to, you know, gather your performance skills and join it.
But while we're on that though, are there any provisions for training for those persons like myself, you know, who need to perform?
So this is what I really wanted to tell you, right? From February. So for this October, we are doing a preliminaries and a final. Right. The final will happen on the Carnival Wednesday at the festival's ground, which will be at the Esplanade. But come February, we are going to do an audition. And from that audition, those finalists will go through a rigorous training throughout the year leading up to October Carnival 2024. And that will entail, you know, just working on themselves, their music, their performance skill.
The stage appeal,
yes, all of that. Marketing themselves, marketing their songs, all of that across the board. It's like a holistic training where the soca industry or the soca culture is, you know, concerned.
All right. I want to thank Kimmy Potts for joining us this morning. It's always a pleasure. I look forward to see what the offerings are from now till for the October Carnival and see what the results yield for next year.
Yes.
You know, I'm looking forward for that. You know, perhaps I might really consider.
You should. You should.
Yeah. But that's it for us this morning on To Big Updates Morning. On the To Big Updates Morning show. This is Youth Wednesday. My name is Dwayne Nurse. Thank you guys for joining us. Remember to share the live. We go back to Tobago Notes and Good Morning Tobago with Candice Jackson. Have a great day.
Let's get transformed together. A fitness program started under the Division of Health, Wellness and Social Protection to get its employees moving their bodies and eating healthier meals. After work during the week, staff participate in aerobics and dance sessions right on the division's compound. There are also hikes to various locations on the weekends or public holidays, and monthly weigh-in sessions.
I have been here from the beginning, but I mainly come on Tuesday. So I did the weigh-in and everything as well, and I'm enjoying the aerobic. It's excellent, right? So good workout. Her style is different, right? So you're getting the workout and I'm feeling it and she's pushing you to your limit. So I like the challenge. I want to let people know that after the workout, you feel so excellent. It's a way of losing weight. It's a way of controlling if you have any chronic disease, high blood pressure, sugar. It will help to keep them under control. So I encourage people to join.
I think it's a great initiative. Since that one of the leading causes of death in Trinidad and Tobago is obesity. So this initiative would really help out a lot of people.
I think it's a really great initiative because I believe since we push for health and healthy eating and healthy living, we should walk the walk, right? So we can't be the ones telling everybody we want to eat healthy, be healthier, and then we are not doing what we say that we're telling people that they should do.
Even though we are office workers, we too face a lot of demands, a lot of stress levels during the day. So as I would have shared earlier, it's a nice way to unwind and de-stress before you get home to your various responsibilities. I would encourage you, Tobago House of Assembly, to continue initiatives such as this, because working in healthcare, our mental and emotional health is something that is vital and the balance is critical.
We have a contest that goes along with it. Everybody took their way in to start. You check your blood pressure to start. You check your numbers. And we want to measure the progress as we go along. We have professionals. This is the Division of Health. So we have dietitians who are monitoring the group. And they would do the checks every now and then to see, so you know how you're progressing, if you're losing any weight. Of course, weight loss is 20% exercise. Weight loss is 80% diet. So this is just the motivator.
This fitness and nutrition initiative is open to all employees of the Tobago House of Assembly. For more information about this program, visit the Division of Health, Wellness and Social Protection's Facebook page.
That was a production of the Department of Information, Office of the Chief Secretary, Tobago House of Assembly.
Hey.
Welcome to Good Morning Tobago on Tobago Updates, your source for current affairs in Tobago, Trinidad, and the region. With the perfect conversations to complement your morning routine, I am Candace Jackson, and let's get started with the news in 90 seconds. Chief Secretary Fali Augustine criticizes the government's budget allocation despite a $64 million increase. He anticipated ongoing funding challenges for Tobago in the coming year, with the budget allocation now at $2.585 billion, up from $2.521 billion in the previous year. This amount falls short of the recommended range set by the Dispute Resolution Commission and agreed upon by Parliament in 2001. Additionally, Augustine also expressed concerns about the lack of transparency in the allocation of funds to Tobago through central government ministries and agencies. And the Innovative Democratic Alliance also criticizes the 2024 Tobago budget. They deem the $260 million for capital allocation as insufficient and inadequate. The IDA sees the building capacity for diversification and growth budget as symbolic and not genuinely serving Tobago's interests. Political leader Dr. Denise Soyafat Angus urges collaborative governance for national development. Tobago's 2024 allocation is $2.585 billion, with $2.298 billion for recurrent expenses and $260 for development. The IDA urges that the budget fails to recognize Tobago as an equal partner in the national development, reinforcing the perception of Tobago as an economic burden on Trinidad. And finally, the Tobago Hotel and Tourism Association partnered with Caribbean Natural Resources Institute and secured funding for a one-year project to boost online presence and promote sustainable tourism. However, supported by the Global Blue Tourism Initiative and co-funded by the French Facility for Global Environment, this project benefits around 8,000 people, including members and local stakeholders. With the pandemic significantly affecting small tourism businesses, resulting in setbacks and revenue losses due to lockdowns and travel restrictions. Immediate past president of the Tobago Hotel and Tourism Association and project manager Chris James stressed commitment to inclusive and interconnected tourism development in Tobago, encompassing all sectors and suppliers. And that concludes your news in 90 seconds. All right, well, viewers, so we are continuing our budget talks this morning because, of course, you know, on Monday we had the reading of the national budget, and Finance Minister Imbert presented a budget worth $59.209 billion with a deficit of just above $5 billion. And of course, it's been generated quite a lot of conversation. And so on with me this morning, we have economist Dr. Vanish James, who is going to be getting into the nitty-gritties of it with us this morning. So a special good morning and welcome to you, Dr. James. How are you?
Morning, Candace. Morning, Tobago.
All right, great. So first of all, I want to get your overall perspective, your initial perspective on this budget. $59.209 billion, a little bit less than last year. You know, a bigger deficit than last year. Last year we had a deficit of just over $1 billion. To this year we have a $5 billion deficit. So what are your thoughts?
Well, I'm an economist, so I will give you a professional interpretation. The best way to interpret what the minister has done is to locate it properly in the context of what the country is trying to achieve. And if you go to Vision 2030, you will see right up front in the document that the country is trying to achieve the status of a developed economy by 2030. So you have to ask, how does this budget fit into that agenda? Now, if you let me give you an upfront answer, and that is, it fits very poorly. The minister provided no clue as to where we are now relative to that agenda. And remember, this is the government that said it wanted to achieve that goal. So when you come with the budget, you ought to tell the country, well, okay, we're in 2023, 7 years to go. Here's where we are. That's the target. The target actually is about $50,000 US per person in the country by 2030. Right now, we are about 67% behind that. But you couldn't tell that from reading the minute or listening to the minister present his budget statement. The more important point even is, if you grow at the rate that the minister expects us to grow next year, which is at about 2.7% per year, going right into 2030, by then you would be about 64% behind your target. So you're going to miss the target.
And I want to put that into perspective because the minister started off talking about a lot of economic growth. We had 3% in the last quarter. We had about a 1.5% growth in 2022. But you have to also put that into context that we had a 17% decline in our GDP over the past several years. So then how does this 3% growth in the first quarter of this year, together with the 1.5% growth last year, how does that factor into that overall decline in the economy?
Well, I mean, the minister was accurate in pointing to the fact that we had some years of decline. Between 2014 and 2019, the economy declined about 3.1% per year. 2020 was COVID, so you could understand the impact of oil price decline and COVID in driving down the economy. But don't miss my point. If you are saying we're going to be developed by 2030, when you give me a growth rate, you need to give me as a country the growth rate relative to what is needed to achieve that goal. And 2.7% is nowhere near the 20% you would need, starting from where we are now, if you want to attain that. So it's peanuts. That's the main point.
Yes.
How do you do better? You then have to look at the budget to see what the government is proposing on the investment plan, the capital budget, the PSIP, to get us on a faster growth path to the goal. $6.2 billion was allocated to the PSIP for next year. Okay? Well, you look at the content of the projects, and you would see that those projects are rigged up around what I would like to call the baby steps. Those projects stand almost no chance of moving the growth rate up to, say, 6%, which is what you would need to be doing to even keep up with China. And remember, if you're growing at 2.7% and the North Atlantic countries are growing at 2.7%, by 2030, they are somewhere near 60,000.
Yes.
And your 28,000 would be far from the goal. So the country needs to understand that the budget is inadequate from the perspective of the goal we have in mind, the effort we're trying to make. The programs do not tackle the fundamental challenge of restructuring the economy. It still focuses on the dragon field and the lowering field and gas and oil in an era when the country is trying to grapple with emerging climate challenges.
Yes.
And the world.
And it's just very interesting because we had Dr. Rowley going to the UN just, I think it was last week or when it was, where the topic of discussion was how are we attaining these sustainable goals by the year 2030,
Exactly.
one of which is reducing our reliance on fossil fuels.
Absolutely. And when you look in the budget, you would see a total effort to join the international effort to do renewable energies. Very total in my view, because the bulk of the budget emphasizes that we're going to continue to rely, and the minister said so quite clearly,
Yes.
we're going to continue to rely on our energy resources, and we're doubling down on exploration in but also north of Tobago. So,
but I mean, and then that's also interesting because even though we're having this conversation on the ground about the need for renewable energy, what we did not see, or at least I did not notice it in the budget, was we didn't see this attempt to, let's say, reduce taxes on or duties on the importation of solar energy equipment or wind energy equipment and that sort of thing.
It's not. It's just reading the proposals he has in the budget. You're not. This is not an important thing. The budget for him, for the government, the budget is calibrated on earning more revenues from oil and gas, fundamentally, and that's a huge error. If you look at the Bahamas, which is outperforming Trinidad and Tobago, they have no oil and gas. If you look at the Cayman Islands, far outperforming Trinidad and Tobago, no oil and gas. Bermuda, no oil and gas. That's a lesson that you don't need to rely on oil and gas if you want to achieve the goals. I mean, Cayman is way up there in $90,000 per person. Bermuda, 115. We have oil and gas, and we are, his best figure quoted in the budget is 20,000 nominal. The comparable, cross-country comparable figure, the purchasing power parity figure, as we say in my profession, is 15,000 thereabouts. So we're way behind. With this reliance on oil and gas, we stand almost no chance of achieving that. You have to focus on industries like those countries I mentioned that allow you to produce what we in my profession call capital services. In Bermuda and in Cayman, you're talking about professional services, accounting services for export, legal services, and so on, all tied to the export of financial services. The minister's budget, if you look at it carefully, you would see a complete misunderstanding of that. If you look at the allocations of the 53 among the industries of the country, the bulk of it goes to education. But education for what? 8 billion to education. But for what? For local education, to educate local people. Now, okay, we know that we're not even doing the best job there. But let's say we're going to redouble our efforts there. But that is far from being adequate if you're talking about developing the economy. You've got to be talking like Britain and the US and China and those places, education for export. If you look, the second biggest chunk of the budget is for healthcare. But for what? Local needs. So we have the whole budget is calibrated on the wrong paradigm. And we will never achieve Vision 2030, developed country status as wanted in Vision 2030, on the approach that the government has. And I think this is a failure of science.
And I mean, as you also mentioned that there was something that was sort of bothered me a little bit in this budget. And it's the way how the minister treated with employment. And he boasted that we have 5% unemployment in the country.
3.5.
3.5%. And I'm like, but something is not adding up with that figure, because when you look at the society and you look at the way how people are working and stuff like that right now, yeah, people might have a job, but is that job sustainable enough? Is that job a 40-hour-a-week job? All of those things. And I want you to, because I know you have some data where that's concerned, and I want you to see, explain what data you have to show the real numbers of what's going on with our employment in the country.
Well, the minister is right that we're, from the CSO's reporting, we're at 3.5% on what the CSO defines as full employment, right? So you're working so many hours a week, you're working throughout the week, and when we count all the persons who are fully employed equivalent, we're at 3.5%. Right? Now, in and of itself, that is laudable. The problem with the whole approach of the government and including the CSO is we never report the amount of underemployment that we have. So if you take a look at the chunk of the workforce that is, in that 3.5%, you might have 10,000 well-qualified people who have no jobs and who are going to migrate, right? So that's one calculation, because when they leave, it drives down your opportunity to develop and drives up the development path of the countries that receive them, and that makes your job even more difficult. So that's one part of the story. The other part of the story is the underemployed, the CPEP, URP, low-level, low productivity activities in agriculture, low productivity activities. You might work all day in retail, low productivity activity, and development is about moving people from those low productivity activities into high productivity activities. If you listen to the minister, that understanding of development, even in terms of the way he dealt with the minimum wage, is completely missing. So the idea is we're going to achieve development, but we don't have to bother with the underlying reason we need development, which is widespread underemployment. So the 3.5% employment rate figure is quite misleading when you put it in the context of the range of low-level, low productivity activities that we have people employed in the country. Yes. And that would be somewhere in the region of about, from the CSO data that I've seen, and analyzed for you when I came to talk to you the last time, that would be somewhere in the region of at least 15 to 20% of the employed labor force. They're undereducated, they're employed in low-level activity. A large chunk of them are in what we call elementary occupations, especially here in Tobago, you see. So those kinds of data, of course, you don't want to put them in a budget, budget statement.
It has to look good.
But you, in the public, need to look at them to see what sense to make of what the minister is saying, and a bit of obfuscation is there in the 3.5%.
And of course, this is why you, Dr. James, is here with me this morning, as we really get under these figures and a lot of the data that was spoken about in the budget, and try to have some real understanding to what was said, because of course, what's on the surface, it's not what is. So viewers, we're going to take a quick break. So when we come back, we're going to get more into this discussion about minimum wage and how it's really going to affect us, because there are some things that I'm missing in the conversation within our space, and we're going to fix that when we come back.
60,000 people strong, and divides is never wrong.
MI4 Security Services Company is the most advanced security service in Tobago. Ask about our cash and transit service. It's safe, risk-free, reliable, and timely. We provide safe banking delivery for all business types and sizes with highly trained staff, 24/7 monitoring, coordinated emergency response, and a well-maintained fleet of armored vehicles. Contact us at 660-7723 or visit our website at www.mi4securitytt.com to sign up today.
Bad girl from Roxborough, Tobago, body fuego in your day clothes, I rate you. Grew up around good vibes and incense. Grew up in hard times that intense. Shut it as you're reaching at the dance. Use the topic as you're reaching at the dance. My girl, go and drop it as you're reaching at the dance. Making use of your talents when you balance back on the dance. Yes, yes. I know, baby. You want a man who take you serious. Not just beat and leave. You're fed up on the streets. Yes, yes, I know. oh, baby. You want a man who take you serious, oh, 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 yeah.
Our national borders, our first step to security, but a possible access point for guns, drugs, crime. If it does not look right, do the right thing. Call Crime Stoppers anonymously. 800-8477. Report possible border crime.
Tobago updates. Good morning, Tobago. Wake up with Candace and Denise.
Welcome back to Good Morning Tobago on Tobago Updates. Viewers, we are continuing our conversation this morning with economist Dr. Vanish James as we discuss a few of the things that were in the budget, that were presented in the budget on Monday by Finance Minister Com Imbert. Now, one of the things that we got into before we went to the break was this issue of employment. Now, the minister stated that we have a 3.5% unemployment rate in the country, but as we discussed, it's not a true reflection of the state of employment because we have a lot of underemployment happening within the country, and those figures seem to like to get shoved under the rug. And the minister sort of alluded to how bad things are in a way, because he said that, you know, when he increased the minimum wage, he said that this would affect over 190,000 people in the country. And I want to put those figures into perspective. So we have 190,000 people within our country making minimum wage out of a population of just about 1.4 million people. So basically, just over 10%? What is the figure?
Well, if you want to calculate it, you look at the labor force. And if you have 650 million in the labor force and 200,000 in the
minimum wage
brackets. Well, that's a rough measure of the underemployed pool. That tells you you're somewhere near 30%, 33% of your labor force in the pool where you really don't want them to be. And so when you really look carefully at the figures in the country, that tells you how inadequate the approach to development is in the budget. That's the real lesson we have to learn, because you can't just give good jobs to people. What you have to do is create good jobs through a development program and train people to pick them up. That's the fundamental formula. Mm-hmm. And so, it's not a governmental decision about where people ought to go. You've got to talk to your business community properly in order to understand where they're trying to create jobs, what incentives they need to create the jobs, and then scale that in terms of additional support to help them scale up, to pick up that on the time scale that you have in mind on the schedule, if you say 7 years. So this is a very tough, tall order for the country already. And to do it on vague and inadequate information just tells you we're not going to achieve anywhere near the goal that we had in mind. This is an extremely disappointing approach by the PNM administration in Trinidad over the last 8 years, in my view.
So, and I want to get into this a bit more, that 190,000 people. So they're expecting this $3 increase from January. But how will this impact on their quality of life? Will this help improve the quality of life would this increase the liquidity of money within our system and within our economy and so on?
Well, the question of the impact of the minimum wage increase is an important question, and it needs to be answered properly with good information. Partly because of my involvement in business and my consultations with business people. I can tell you that if I have 10% of my workforce in the minimum wage environment in my company, and I raise the minimum wage, so their pay goes up, say their pay goes up $3 an hour. Everybody else in the company looking at that, they want to, you're raising their pay, what happened to my pay? So their pay will go up. I will come under pressure to raise their pay, and therefore raising the minimum wage drives up the average wage across the board in all companies, pretty much. Now, it's good to raise the minimum wage because you're taking people out of poverty. The more you do it. But the question for our country is, how do you do it? Now, if you do it the way the minister has done, without any reference to a proper development program and without any reference to productivity growth, which is the driver of the development program, then what you're really doing is you're giving a loan to the minimum wage earners in anticipation of some kind of productivity growth later, or some windfall to fund it that you could kind of hand out to the businesses to pay this increased cost.
Mm-hmm.
The better approach to the minimum wage is to know what we're going to do to raise productivity wherever they're working. So if people are in agriculture, you want agricultural productivity to go up. If they're in the retail industries, you want retail productivity to go up, sales per person to go up, and so on. That has to be the primary methodology. CPEP and URP, you want productivity to go up there, better equipment, better tools, better training, so that not only could they do what they're doing, they're better, but they're poised to move into better jobs. Mm-hmm. That's the approach you have to adopt. And when those productivities go up, then that is what will really drive up the minimum wage in the economy. So really, the minimum wage of any economy, not just Trinidad and Tobago, is best moved up by growing productivity wherever you have underemployment. Now, if you listen to the minister's budget, that perspective is completely missing. Yet we discovered that back in 1954 when Arthur Lewis wrote about it. So this is just telling you how difficult it is to learn in a society organized the way ours is. Because, you heard the minister say he talked to business people and so on. But I never knew the minister was holding consultation. I'm a business person, so I don't know what that means. Just like here, you don't have any consultations here in Tobago, same way down there, running an autocratic system. So they talk to who they know, talk to their friends, and you can't build a viable economy that way. What about all the people in Central and South who are UNC supporters? How do they fit into the conversation about where we go? You follow me? So you have to be extremely careful when you're running an economy, not to try and run the economy for the people you know. You have to run it for the facts on the ground, to deal with the facts on the ground. And I look at this budget, there is absolutely an inadequate understanding of the way in which you raise the minimum wage in a country, right? So that at least if you give a loan to the poor to help them begin to move, you are doing productivity upward drivers. You're doing that and innovation drivers and so on, so that in the end, this is just a purgatory for them, a holding pattern. They're just here until a good job shows up and they can run and get the job. But in this budget, you see no clue as to where those real good jobs are going to come from. Let me make one last point to the public for you. And that is that what the minister has proposed is that he would do some training. It's a very broad brush training, right? Idea is that they cook up in the Ministry of Finance about what the training should be. But if you're really devising training programs to help workers get better jobs First of all, you've got to see the development program and train for that. And secondly, you've got to talk to the business community in a proper way so that you know where the deficits are, where the productivity initiatives have to be, because ultimately people have to work somewhere. And it's where they're working, you have to see productivity going up. And so you have to be looking everywhere and getting conversation going with all those in order to understand what kind of training has to be done given where we are today. That perspective, that approach is not possible in Trinidad and Tobago because of the way the country is organized. There is no way for our representatives in the parliament to call everybody in. And if you leave it up to our government, meaning the executive, they'll only call their supporters. They'll only call their friends. And that is what causes under-information and under-informed approach to budgeting, and therefore flawed budgeting. And that's why over the years from 1960 to now, we as a country, with all the oil and gas, have only grown at 2% per year. That is why we're really not making any progress with our development agenda. We're not growing fast enough. And we're not growing fast enough because we're doing the wrong things. We're planning the wrong way and doing the wrong things. And
So-
that budget demonstrates that clearly to me.
I want to discuss what some of the plans for the SME sector a little bit, because the majority of our businesses, start as SMEs.
Yeah.
You don't start as a
They are
large
SMEs.
conglomerate. But that's how we start to grow our economy and everything is that. But we're having a situation where you're telling businesses that they can't access credit cards to do their international transactions. But now you're devising a separate system for them to access foreign exchange, which was not really explained. It was just mentioned. It wasn't really explained. And when you talk to the private sector, there's so many complaints about, cash rules, not getting the VAT refunds back in time and so on. All of that affecting their ability to just grow in a natural way. What should have been done in this budget to help the SME
Well,
sector?
to grow in a competitive way.
Yes.
And SME is a kind of, I always tell my colleagues, a kind of vague way to talk about what we really ought to be talking about. The economy really has to be broken up into two parts. One part is the old traditional export-oriented, foreign capital-dominated sector where what you call big companies operate.
Right.
That's where Shell and BPTT and all those, that's where they operate, right? The big foreign capital-dominated companies. They are involved largely in exporting energy and energy-related offshoots, methanol, urea, and so on. So that's fine. That's your main foreign exchange earner. But development comes when the other part of the economy grows, what Lloyd Best used to call the inshore sector. What we have to understand as the part of the economy that behaves like the Calypsonians behave, like the Calypsal industry behaves. They are small, medium, and so on.
Which is basically what Tobago is.
Which is basically what Tobago is now.
Yes.
Not what Tobago should be. Now, but we'll come to that, yeah? The thing is, that part of the economy is where we produce what I call capital, where we produce skills, self-confidence, like you see in your Calypsonians and your Carnival industry people and so on. All the things you need to innovate, where every year you see the musicians innovating and so on. So you have to analyze it not in terms of small and medium and so on, but in terms of what they're doing. And in those places where they're doing things, they need proper access to credit in order to invest more in their efforts to innovate. They need proper access to sound policy decision making so that they can get underpinnings, public underpinnings, infrastructure, and all these other things for their innovations, and including that the kind of infrastructure you need to do Carnival properly, for example, to expand Carnival into video and film and all that sort of stuff. You need proper infrastructure for that. You need research incentives for those things. And whether you call them small, medium, or you focus on their economic properties, which is that they are capable of innovating and producing capital to support the innovation, when you look at them through those lenses, the support services we provide in the country are completely inadequate. You can't develop that sector on the basis of commercial banking. You have to allow them access to development banking. We have no fundamental clue about that fact. So the country has an agricultural development bank, but there's no development bank service in your Carnival industry.
Listen, at that point was actually brought up by the farmers recently that, it's been very difficult. And I think that the Secretary of Food Security has also been speaking to that, trying to see other ways to help the farmers access the funding they need to invest. Because
well, it should be no mystery that Tobago ought to take the lead as half the country and develop a national development bank. And that allows you to, when we get to that, we will understand why we are where we are with the budgeting for Tobago. But generally, it is that picture that needs to be grasped in order to understand the inadequacies of the approach to what you're calling the SMEs.
Yes.
You see, those are, if you look at the Calypsonians and the Carnival people, the whole global Carnival industry was created really by the Trinidad and Tobago Carnival. They always knew they were developing an industry that must be export-oriented. But they always tended to have to do it with little, strong policy supports, right? So it's only very recently we began to develop capacity in the university system to support music development, to support Carnival development, only very recently. And even then, given what is being done, they're way off the mark. You see? What you need is you can't do it at the tertiary level and leave the skills training all the way to primary school behind. So the whole track of education, the whole reform of the education system, taking into account modern artificial intelligence capabilities and so on, has to be done to anchor development of what you are calling the SMEs. Otherwise, they will struggle, keep struggling. Let me give you a little anecdotal piece of data. I've been studying this industry for the World Intellectual Property Organization since 2005. And since 2005, the Jamaicans, who are so famous for reggae, have put up a website. And on the website, this is to service reggae. And on the website, for the last 15 years, there is a sign under construction. These governments in the region simply lack any understanding of how you're going to develop the economies that we have. So they have only grown by 0.05%, 0.5%, not 0.05, 0.5% per year since 1960 when they got independence. And we have grown by 2% because of oil and gas, and neither growth rate is adequate to allow you to do it.
And I want to put at it as another perspective when it comes to the private sector, and coming from from what the minister laid out in the budget. And this is us moving towards a cashless society. And while cashless is the way of the world right now, when we talk about just increasing technologies, AI capabilities, all of those things, it comes into play. But when you talk to the business sector, how long does it take to get, first of all, a business account? They are not able to even access the machines and so on. So how can they go cashless? Not only that, we're having problems with data connectivity. If you just look at Tobago alone, you have problems with data connectivity in several parts of the island. So how are we moving towards a cashless society? We're having this conversation on that macroeconomic level, but on the micro level, on the small business, the little parlor on the street, that's not happening. And then are we ready? Should we eliminate cash altogether and go cashless completely? Or should we still have that element of cash within our society?
Well, the minister was, I think the basic logic of what he's proposing makes sense. You have to keep up with modern technology. Money is no longer cash, mainly. Money evolves as economies evolve. So when I was a little boy, was money largely gold.
Largely, these a lot of coins and
which
stuff.
is a big cumbersome thing.
Yeah.
Then it evolved into cash, then it evolved into credit cards and checks and all those kinds of things. And now your money is really an account in the bank. So the fact that digital technologies have come along would force you to adjust. So it makes sense to move more and more into the cashless economy. Everybody's walking around with a cell phone. Nobody gave them any incentive to take up a cell phone, just the ordinary business of the development of life. Everybody walking around with a cell phone, and you could deploy those kinds of technologies to make it easier for people to spend. All you're doing when you go for a cashless society is you are basically expanding the range of persons who can spend more easily. And really what that does, why that is good, is that circulates goods and services faster, makes spending easier. People are doing more impulsive spending and all those, and the economy could get a boost from that. Now, the point about the preparedness of the business community to make the adjustment, I mean, there are two sides. One is the households who are doing a big chunk of the spending. How prepared are they? And then you have to involve the business community in discussions and programs that will allow them to adjust. I remember, just to give you an example of how important this is, the best business in the whole of Tobago is Dalmore's supermarket in Mason Hall. I went into Dalmore one day with my credit card, with my debit card, and it took me almost 20 minutes to process a transaction. So I said to Dalmore, well, let me see your technology. I looked at the technology and you could see it was an ancient technology. That is why it took half an hour to do the processing. So I called my technician who works for me. And I said, come and take a look. He came, he looked at it, he said, Doc, this is what we have to change. I said, okay, take this and go down the road. He went, he bought the pieces of equipment, the networking capabilities and so on. He came and he installed it. And right there, I was able to do a transaction in 3 seconds, fast. That, every time I go to Dalmore, he reminds me, say, Doc, thanks. Because it speeded up the number of transactions he could do.
Yes.
And more people are coming in with their card rather than cash. That's the development you really want to see. And the government has to be aware that there are all of these people. If you want to help people, if you want to speed up the process, then you have to look, like you are saying, across the economy, identify the people who are inadequately equipped, even if they might have the machine to do it, they don't have the fundamental equipment that allows them to do it properly. Help them to speed up process on the way. But the minister in this case, I think, is right on track that we have to keep adapting. But you know, all of that is about importing technology. We can't forget that the more you import cell phones and so on, the more pressure it's going to put on you to export creatively in order to fund those imports. And you see the minister complaining in the same budget that the country is experiencing shortages of foreign exchange.
Yes.
The fundamental reason for that is over-reliance on the energy sector to get our foreign exchange supplies and inadequate diversification of the economy. And let me say, inadequate diversification is partly evident in a fundamentally flawed reliance on the manufacturing sector to do it. You can't develop Trinidad and Tobago based on that manufacturing sector.
Well, we're going to leave that conversation for a bit because we're going to spend the last few minutes that we have on Tobago, specifically the budget allocation. You know, we continue to see that Tobago gets the minimum in the budget and so on. And just to put into context, we have $260 million for developmental funding when you owe contractors over $300 million still.
Well, that 260 million is the money to buy the entertainment drinks. That has nothing to do with development.
Yeah.
But when I came on your show the last time, I reminded the society that back in 2021 December, both Farley and Watson came to my house when, well, Farley on the phone, Watson came physically. And I warned them what I have said to the society since then. If you govern like the PNM, you're going to get PNM results. And over the decades when the PNM has been running Tobago, we've made no progress on development. But the budgetary allocations were forced on them by the Dispute Resolution Commission. And since then, all governments, UNC, PNM, have kept close to the bare minimum. This budget is 4.36% of the national expenditure pool. The development budget for Tobago is 4.2% of the 6.2 billion. So we're getting close to the bottom. But why? That is not because anybody in Trinidad don't like Tobago. That is because of the way we in Tobago are approaching the budgeting exercise. If we do not lead, this is a warning I have given to Tobagonians ever since I've come back home. The Robinsonian agenda has carried us this far. Now we need to adopt a new agenda. We in Tobago must behave as though we are half the country. And when we are putting forward budgetary proposals, we must do it properly with leadership. First of all, on the properly side, the data on Tobago must be evident in the budget. You go back and you look at Farley's budget proposals, no data. So this minister said Trinidad and Tobago growing at 1.5% last year, 2.57% this year. Data. But when it came to Tobago, what did he say? Are taking their word for it that Tobago is on the recovery path. That's the same approach that he's accusing uninformed commentators of having. Okay, but if you are the official, if you are the minister, you can't budget that way. You have to demand the data from the THA on how the economy performed last year. And I came on your show and said it collapsed.
Yes.
And there is no reference to that in Farley's budget or in the minister's budget. And that's disservice to the people of Tobago. And that explains a lot of the fundamental failure to lay out a recovery program for the budget for 2023 to get out of that mess and to still supplement that with a proper development program that makes a convincing case to Trinidad that if you do these things in Tobago, the whole country will make progress. That's completely missing.
And there was some version of a plan presented, but I remember the minister, if you listen to them, what the minister said, he called all the plans and he was like, this is good, this is good, this is good, but I wish them luck.
But the reason he could take that perspective is no proper, that program that you said that can't do nothing for Tobago development. No proper program that lets the government in Trinidad see if Tobago does this, Trinidad does benefit. You know what he said in the budget? If we develop in Trinidad, Tobago will benefit. But it needs to be the other way around. If we develop in Tobago, Trinidad and Tobago would benefit. So that perspective, whatever Farley said in his budget, did not persuade the minister. He gave a smaller development allocation this year. But that's in my view, you ask me, you bring me on your show. In my view, that's a fundamental failure of leadership from Tobago. Nobody in Trinidad is there to look after your business. You have to organize yourself properly and provide clear technical leadership. When you go down with the budget, the content of the budget must persuade the country and must persuade the government, whoever is government. And a big part of that is the same way you approach foreign investors. You say, if we do this, this is what you will make. So when you lay out the Tobago budget as half the country, you get to say, when you team up with us to help us fund these programs, then you will make a rate of return of 20%. Your growth rate will inch up. The country's level of development will move forward. Our program is a part of the National Diversification Program. That perspective is completely missing. And it's a demonstration of poor leadership and incompetence. Now, I don't mix words when I am talking about Tobago people's business.
Yes.
And I don't say these things because I'm against Farley and them. I'm just giving you science. They cannot govern like the PNM and get different results to what the PNM got. And so far, I have been proven right.
Well, I mean, we only have about a minute left, but, I was just wondering, do you think that this is one of the reasons why the government has been so hesitant to put any sort of policy and financial backing into the tourism industry?
Right, well, absolutely, because the understanding of tourism in Tobago is events tourism, fundamentally. You come for a carnival, and, well, okay, that's going to just be an event. Last year, we saw from the evidence it had no impact. The Tobago economy collapsed, notwithstanding this biggest thrust in your government. When you do big engine projects, they move your economy forward. If your biggest engine project is kind of like the Jamaican tourism industry, you'll get Jamaican results, which is 0.5% growth impact, if any. You cannot do tourism in Tobago the way Trinidad conceives of tourism. Visitors come to visit the beach, and you can't do that. You have to do tourism in Tobago the way Cayman Islands does tourism. They're bringing in now, they called me a couple of years ago to go down there to study their music industry. You know what they asked me? How do we make the tourism industry, in the music industry in Cayman, a big global player? Same approach you have to everything you're doing here. You have to change, and their tourism is anchored on long-stay tourism. People come there and spend 3 and 4 and 5 months providing professional services. I hope these points don't miss the people of Tobago. You cannot do tourism development in Tobago on the basis of people coming to visit the beach. All across the Caribbean, that model has led to no development. What you have to do in Tobago is take advantage of the fact that there is a space. And you have to head down the road where Antigua gone with healthcare, providing the healthcare services in Antigua at half the cost of those
elsewhere, yes.
In the US, and people come there, the same professionals up there. That's international investment. Team up with the Antiguan professionals to provide the services. Financing arrangements are tacked on from the US, and the services delivered. And it helps the economy. They are now somewhere near 19,000-20,000 US dollars per person per year.
All right, well,
it's a simple arithmetic and a modeling point, from a model of development point of view. But what we're doing here is child's play, and it's not going to get us anywhere.
All right, well, of course, this is a conversation that is far from over, but I just want to thank you so much, Dr. James, for being on with us. And maybe as the budget debate unfolds and we get a little bit more into it, we could have you on again to discuss some of the other things that come out as we dive deeper into what is to come in fiscal 2023-2024.
You're welcome, Candice.
All right, viewers, thank you for being with us. I hope you have a safe and wonderful day. Don't forget we have brunch coming up at 10 a.m., so you don't want to miss that. See you then.
The energy fill the skies. I say thanks a favor to wake up and hear me neighbor. 60,000 people strong.